From filmmaker Danny Steinman comes the unexpected, at least at the time, fifth entry in the mighty Friday the 13th franchise, featuring a new location not nestled directly on the shorefronts of Crystal Lake, a slew of characters that are as cartoonish as they are endearing, and a hockey-masked madman that may or may not be Jason Voorhees back from the grave. Let's take a look at 1985's Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. A New Beginning has been prominently featured in my main Friday the 13th viewing rotation for decades and decades. It's absolutely the weirdest, sleaziest, and most bizarre entry of the franchise, at least out of the first 8 movies. Jason Goes to Hell may be more bizarre than this film, but regardless, Friday the 13th Part 5 is a Friday the 13th staple as far as I'm concerned, and like other notable entries in the franchise, such as Parts 4, 6, and 8, I never get tired of watching this sequel, and it's only gotten better and more enjoyable with time.
You scared of spiders? You scared of rubber spiders? You scared of rubber spiders on strings? Man, you are one scared cat.
Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, follows the story of Tommy Jarvis, an older version of the character seen in the final chapter, who's been traumatized by his past encounter with Jason Voorhees. Tommy is sent to a halfway house for troubled teens in the countryside, still in the Crystal Lake area, but unlike the settings of the preceding 4 films, not directly lakefront. Soon after Tommy's arrival, a series of grisly murders begin, suggesting the possible return of Jason Voorhees himself, or the dark doings of Tommy Jarvis. However, by the end of the film, it's revealed that the killer is not Jason Voorhees at all, or Tommy for that matter, but a man named Roy Burns, a paramedic seeking vengeance for the death of his son, who was a resident at the halfway house, up until his murder. Friday the 13th A New Beginning was initially introduced under the pseudonym Repetition, leaving several of its actors, including the lead John Shepherd, in the dark about its true identity as part of the Friday the 13th franchise. Shepherd, deeply dedicated to his role, had even spent a significant amount of time volunteering at a mental hospital in anticipation of his character. The revelation that he was starring in the 5th iteration of this horror series was a disappointment to him. Friday the 13th Part 5 was filmed at various locations throughout California, such as Agora Hills, Camarillo, Beverly Hills, and the Franklin Canyon Reservoir. The cast includes Melanie Kinnaman as Pam, Richard Young as Matt, the aforementioned John Shepherd as Tommy Jarvis, Corey Feldman as young Tommy Jarvis, Dick Wayne as Roy Burns, Shavar Ross as Reggie the Reckless, Juliette Cummins as Robin, Tiffany Helm as Violet, Miguel Nunez as Demon, Deborah Voorhees as Tina, Mark Venturini as Victor, Dominic Braccia as Joey, Marco St. John as the Sheriff, John Robert Dixon as Eddie, plus an absolute slew of others, with the film's wackiest and most hilariously zany contributions coming from the characters Ethel and Junior, played in glorious fashion by Carol Locatell and Ron Sloan, respectively.
Say it like you mean it, Ma!
Would you shut the fuck up?
In the opening dream sequence of the film, Jason Voorhees was played by Johnny Hawk, whereas stuntman Tom Morga portrayed the hallucinations of Jason for the remainder of the film. Morga was also primarily responsible for playing Roy Burns once the character donned his Jason-esque getup. Fun fact, Dick Warlock, Halloween 2's Michael Myers himself, was the stunt coordinator on Friday 5.
Looks like we got us a maniac on the loose, huh, Sheriff?
Corey Feldman, due to his simultaneous commitments to the Goonies, could only afford a brief appearance in A New Beginning. The scenes featuring Feldman were filmed during his break from the Goonies in his family's backyard in Los Angeles, complete with a rain machine.
Wait a minute. Especially for the occasion.
Director Danny Steinman was candid about the excessive amount of nudity he shot for the film, much of which later was cut out. An interesting fact about this particular installment of the series is its unique hockey mask design. It features 2 blue chevrons pointing downward, deviating from the series' usual design, at least thus far in the franchise, of 3 red chevrons with the lower 2 directed upwards. Harry Manfredini returned to the series once again to create the score for the film, and to be honest, I think it's one of the best in the franchise. There's some different cues and compositions on display within the music of this film that really sets it apart from the 4 preceding films, and contains moments that feel much more aggressive and frenetic than what came before. For a film as weird and sleazy as this one, the score is absolutely insane. And speaking of music, the film also boasts one of the best songs to ever grace a Friday the 13th movie, His Eyes by Pseudo Echo, a terrifically spooky 80s anthem forever burned into our brains, and one that is perfectly aligned with Violet's dance sequence. I really enjoy the look of Roy Burns' Jason-esque outfit in this film. The bald undermask, the unique hockey mask with the blue chevrons, the bluish-gray coveralls, the clean machete, all of it. Although this wasn't in fact Jason Voorhees himself, Roy Burns feels like a force to be reckoned with nonetheless, a scorned father reaping the sweets of revenge upon the helpless idiots of Pinehurst Halfway House over the murder of his son Joey. The looks of both Zombie Jason and Hallucination Jason throughout the film are killer as well, giving Jason a gnarlier look than we'd ever seen before. Bloodied and tattered and seen only through the semi-psychotic eyes of Tommy Jarvis himself. One of the most interesting aspects of Friday the 13th Part 5 is the return of the whodunit style of storytelling, a key aspect of the original film, but one that wasn't implemented in Parts 2, 3, and 4 since we knew Jason was the killer by that point. However, unlike the original film, the whodunit style of story execution is very different in A New Beginning. While the original film gave you absolutely no clue about who the killer was until the actual reveal, A New Beginning attempts to confuse the audience by directly offering 3 seemingly obvious choices of who the killer could be. Roy Burns, due to the crazy death stare close-ups and weird interactions with the police, the head of Pinehurst Halfway House, Matt, who sort of disappears before the 3rd act of the movie, and of course, Tommy Jarvis himself, who the film spends a lot of its runtime showcasing how crazy he's becoming. Obviously, we now know that the killer ends up being Roy, but I found the intentional confusion that the film creates for its audience to be a big breath of fresh air, and only adds to the frenetic zaniness of the runtime.
That is one fucking ugly man that goes there.
That's one fucking ugly man, Mama.
Would you shut your trap? You know, you ain't so pretty yourself, you know.
I ain't so pretty myself, I know.
I absolutely love this movie, and as far as attempts to continue a franchise after its lead villain is dead and gone go, this one takes the cake, and it does it in a very slick, sleazy, and fun way, and that's one of the best attributes about Part 5. It is a fun time to be had. Not nearly as fun as what would follow in Jason Lives, but fun nonetheless. while also managing to retain some of the gritty, grim tone of the final chapter. You have to hand it to Frank Mancuso Jr. here, who after thinking he'd kill Jason and the franchise for good in the final chapter, knocked it out of the park when it came time to resurrect the franchise yet again, because A New Beginning is a terrific sequel, and legitimately delivers the goods in a world where Jason Voorhees is legitimately dead, yet the legacy of the hockey-masked madman lives on. Everything from the pacing, to the score, to the punctual editing, to the simple yet endearing cinematography, absolutely works for me in this movie. The acting chops are perfectly acceptable for the story on display here, the zany array of characters are extremely memorable and out of this world, especially Ethel and Jr., who are undeniably funny and goofy and charming in the most hilarious ways possible, and are absolutely two of the most memorable characters of the entire franchise.
Are you hearing me, boy? Get off that fucking bike and come here and eat my stew!
My only real gripe with this movie is that I felt it was a bit too short, and I would like to have seen Roy say at least a few words before plunging to his death at the end of the film. Other than that, between Pam and Reggie the Reckless and those damn enchiladas, Friday the 13th: A New Beginning is a great sequel, a terrific departure from the norm, and an absolute blast of a Friday the 13th movie, and I love every single bloody, sleazy, gross, weird, and offbeat moment of it. Plus, it has this weird, cozy, early 1980s television special vibe to it that I can't explain, but I absolutely love. With that said, Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, is a masterpiece.